I'd hated Dominic Russo for exactly 7 years, 3 months, and 14 days. Not that I was counting. The day we met, I was 21 and freshly graduated from business school, ready to take my place in my family's real estate empire. My father, Richard Hale, had spent decades building Hale properties into a powerhouse that dominated the East Coast. We were untouchable, unstoppable, and about to close the deal that would cement our legacy, acquiring the Riverside Development Project. Then the Russos swooped in and stole it from under us. Dominic Russo stood in my father's office that day, all arrogant confidence in an expensive suit that probably cost more than my car. He was infuriatingly handsome with dark hair, sharp cheekbones, and eyes so intensely green they seemed to see right through you. At 28, he'd already earned a reputation as a ruthless negotiator who played to win. "Nothing personal, Mr. Hale," he'd said with a smile that was anything but apologetic. "Just business." My father had a heart attack 3 weeks later. The doctors said it was stress, genetics, age, but I knew the truth. Losing that deal, losing to the Russos, it had broken something in him. He survived, but he was never quite the same. Retired at 62, leaving me to take over Hale Properties at 21 with a chip on my shoulder and a vendetta burning in my chest. For 7 years, I'd made it my mission to beat Dominic Russo at every turn. Every property, every deal, every negotiation became a battlefield. We circled each other like predators, always competing, always fighting for the same prizes. He won some, I won some, but we both lost more than we gained because our rivalry had become so toxic that other companies started avoiding deals that might put them in the crossfire. "You need to let this go, Sasha," my best friend Maya told me over drinks one evening. "This thing with Russo, it's consuming you." "He destroyed my father," I said, swirling my wine. "Your father had a heart attack because he worked 80-hour weeks for 40 years and ate steak for every meal. Dominic Russo didn't cause that. He didn't help." Maya sighed. "Has it occurred to you that maybe Russo isn't the villain you've made him out to be? That maybe you're both just doing your jobs?" "Whose side are you on?" "Yours, always. Which is why I'm saying this rivalry is hurting you more than it's hurting him." She leaned forward. "Sasha, you're brilliant. You've grown Hale Properties beyond anything your father achieved. But you're so focused on beating Russo that you're missing opportunities. You're so busy fighting him that you're not building anything new." I wanted to argue, but somewhere deep down, I knew she was right. The rivalry had become an obsession. I thought about Dominic Russo more than I wanted to admit. Wondered what he was planning, what properties he was eyeing, what his next move would be. It wasn't healthy, but I didn't know how to stop. That was 2 weeks ago, before everything changed, before the threats started, before I discovered that Dominic Russo, my sworn enemy, might be the only person who could keep me alive. The first letter arrived on a Monday. Plain envelope, no return address, my name typed on the front. Inside was a single sheet of paper with words cut from magazines like something out of a bad movie. "Stay away from the Harbor Project, or you'll regret IT." I almost laughed. In 7 years of cutthroat real estate, I'd received my share of intimidation attempts. Angry sellers, desperate buyers, competitors trying to scare me off. This was amateur hour. I threw it away and got back to work. The second letter arrived Wednesday. This one was more specific. "Your father survived 1 heart attack. Let's see if you're as lucky." That one made me pause. Mentioning my father felt more personal, more dangerous. I should have called the police, should have taken it seriously. Instead, I hired private security and kept working on the Harbor Project, a massive mixed-use development on the waterfront that would be the crown jewel of my career. I'd been planning it for 2 years, had investors lined up, architects ready to break ground. I wasn't going to let anonymous threats derail me. The third letter came Friday, and this time it wasn't a letter. It was a bullet wrapped in paper with a note, "Final warning." I called the police, filed a report, increased security. My assistant, Jennifer, wanted me to back off the Harbor Project entirely. "Whoever this is, they're serious, Sasha. Is any deal worth your life?" "It's not about the deal," I said, though that wasn't entirely true. It's about not letting bullies win. The moment I cave to threats is the moment I lose credibility in this business. Or it's the moment you stay alive long enough to do other deals. But I was stubborn. Hale's stubbornness, my father used to call it. Once I committed to something, I saw it through, consequences be damned. Friday night, I worked late at the office reviewing contracts. My security guard, Marcus, was stationed outside. I felt safe, protected. I should have known better. The power cut out at 9:47 p.m. Emergency lights flickered on, casting everything in eerie red. Through my office window, I saw Marcus slumped against the wall, unconscious or worse. My heart hammered as I grabbed my phone, dialing 911 with shaking hands. Before I could hit send, my office door crashed open. 2 men in masks, moving with military precision. Professional, hired. I ran. Made it to the stairwell before they caught me, one grabbing my arm, spinning me around. I fought, landed one good kick that made him grunt, but the other one was already there, pulling something from his jacket. I was going to die in a stairwell over a real estate deal. The absurdity of it flashed through my mind even as I struggled, screamed, fought for my life. Then gunshots rang out, 3 quick bursts that echoed in the concrete stairwell. The man holding me dropped. The other one turned, reaching for his weapon, but more shots fired and he went down too. I stood frozen, ears ringing, staring at the bodies, my mind unable to process what had just happened. Sasha. I looked up. Dominic Russo stood at the top of the stairs, gun in hand, face grim. My enemy, my rival, the man I'd spent 7 years hatting. He just saved my life. What, how? I couldn't form a coherent sentence. We need to move, now. He was down the stairs in seconds, checking the bodies with practiced efficiency. More will come. These 2 were just the advance team. I don't understand. I'll explain everything, but not here. Do you trust me? No. Smart, but you're going to have to trust me anyway, because right now, I'm the only thing standing between you and whoever wants you dead. He looked at me, those green eyes intense and serious. So, are you coming with me? Or do you want to wait here and see if the police arrive before the next team of hired killers? I should have waited. Should have called the police, demanded answers, refused to go anywhere with Dominic Russo. Instead, I heard myself say, "Let's go." He took me to a safe house, an unassuming apartment in a building his family owned, designed specifically for situations like this. High security, off the grid, stocked with supplies. "Sit," he ordered, gesturing to a leather couch while he secured the locks and checked the windows. "You're in shock. You need water, probably food." "I need answers." My voice was steadier than I felt. "Starting with why you were at my office at 10 p.m. with a gun." Dominic moved to the kitchen, returning with water and what looked like expensive whiskey. He poured generous amounts of both, handed me the water, and downed the whiskey himself. 3 weeks ago, I started receiving threats, he said. Anonymous, professional, telling me to back off the harbor project. My blood ran cold. The harbor project, that's... Your project, I know. He poured more whiskey. At first, I thought it was directed at me. The Russo name comes with enemies, but then I did some digging and I found out you were receiving threats too. How did you know that? Because I have people watching you. Excuse me. He had the grace to look slightly uncomfortable. Not in a creepy way, in a competitive intelligence way. I like to know what my rivals are up to. That's literally the definition of creepy. It's business, and in this case, it saved your life. He sat across from me, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. Someone wants the harbor project stopped, Sasha. They're willing to kill to make it happen. You were the first target because you're the public face of the development. But I'm involved too. My company is handling the commercial leasing. We're both targets. So you, what, decided to stake out my office and play hero? I decided to protect my investment. If you die, the harbor project dies with you. Your company will freeze everything while they figure out succession. The investors will get cold feet. Everything I've worked on for this deal evaporates. He held my gaze. I didn't save you out of the goodness of my heart, Sasha. I saved you because it's good business. It shouldn't have stung. We were enemies, after all. Of course he had mercenary motivations. But somehow, it stung anyway. Fine, I said coldly. You saved your investment, thank you. Now I'll go home, hire better security, and we can both. You can't go home. They know where you live. They've probably already been there. Then I'll go to a hotel, where they'll find you within hours. These aren't amateurs, Sasha. They had 2 trained killers in your office building past your security. They have resources, connections, and clearly no problem with murder. He stood, packing. You need to disappear, and I need to figure out who wants us dead and why. We can call the police. And tell them what? That we're being threatened over a real estate deal. They'll take statements, file reports, and do nothing while whoever hired those killers sends more. He stopped packing, looking at me. I have resources the police don't. Contacts, information networks, ways to investigate that aren't bound by legal restrictions. Give me 72 hours. Let me find who's behind this and neutralize the threat. 72 hours of what? Hiding in your safe house. 72 hours of staying alive while I work. I know it's not ideal. Ideal? Dominic, you're my rival, my enemy. I've spent 7 years trying to destroy your business. And I've spent 7 years trying to destroy yours. But right now, we have a common enemy who's considerably more dangerous than our rivalry. He moved closer. I know you don't trust me. I know you probably hate the idea of accepting my help. But pride doesn't stop bullets, Sasha. And whoever wants you dead isn't going to give up just because you're too stubborn to accept protection. I wanted to argue, wanted to throw his words back at him and storm out. But 2 bodies cooling in my office stairwell told me he was right. 72 hours, I agreed. Then we figure out next steps. Deal. Neither of us mentioned that accepting his help meant spending 3 days trapped with my worst enemy. Or that somewhere in the back of my mind, I was wondering if this was the most dangerous I'd been all night. Part 2. The first night was awkward. Dominic showed me the guest bedroom, surprisingly comfortable, with its own bathroom and a lock on the door that he made a point of demonstrating. I'm not going to attack you in your sleep, he said, reading my expression. I know, you'd lose your investment. Something flickered across his face. Is that really what you think? That I only saved you for the business deal? You said so yourself. I said that's why I was watching your office. I didn't say. He trailed off, jaw tightening. Never mind. Get some rest. We'll talk strategy in the morning. He left me alone, and I locked the door even though I believed him. Not because I feared Dominic would hurt me, but because I needed that barrier. That tangible reminder that we were enemies, regardless of circumstances. I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those masked men, heard the gunshots, felt hands grabbing me. Around 3 a.m., I gave up and ventured into the kitchen for water. Dominic was there, laptop open, surrounded by papers and screens, still wearing his dress shirt but with the sleeves rolled up and tie discarded. Can't sleep, he asked without looking up. You're one to talk. I'll sleep when you're safe. He finally glanced at me, and I saw exhaustion in his eyes. Coffee. It's 3 a.m. So is that a yes or a no? I found myself sitting across from him, expensive coffee in a mug that probably cost more than my entire kitchen set. What are you working on? Background on the harbor project, looking for anyone who might benefit from stopping it. He turned his laptop so I could see. There's the obvious, competing developers who lost out on the bid, but none of them have the resources or the motivation to hire professional killers. What about environmental groups? There were protests about the project disrupting the waterfront ecosystem. Possible but unlikely. Protests are one thing, murder is another. These people are professionals, which means money, serious money. He pulled up another file. I'm looking at financial connections. Who loses if this project succeeds? Who gains if it fails? I studied the screen, my business instincts kicking in despite the exhaustion. The old warehouse district. Those property owners have been trying to block development for years, worried it'll raise their taxes. Already investigated. They're furious, but they're also broke. Can't afford assassins. We worked through possibilities for an hour, and somewhere in that time, I forgot I was supposed to hate him. Forgot the rivalry. We fell into an easy rhythm, bouncing ideas off each other, building on each other's theories. "You're good at this," Dominic said eventually. "At what?" "Investigating death threats." "At analysis, strategy, you see patterns others miss." He leaned back, studying me. "I've always known you were smart. You've beaten me on enough deals to prove that. But this is different. You're not just business smart, you're tactical." "Is that a compliment?" "It's an observation." He paused. "Though yes, it's also a compliment. You've built something remarkable with Hale Properties, Sasha. I know I've been competitive." "You stole the Riverside deal from my father." "I outbid him on a property he wanted. That's not stealing, that's capitalism." "He had a heart attack 3 weeks later." "And I'm sorry for that, genuinely." Dominic's voice softened. "But Sasha, your father was under immense stress. His health was already compromised. Losing one deal didn't cause his heart attack. Decades of stress and poor health choices did." "You don't know that." "Neither do you. But you've convinced yourself I'm the villain in that story, because it's easier than accepting that sometimes bad things happen without someone to blame." I wanted to argue, but the words stuck in my throat. Because maybe he was right. Maybe I'd built him into a monster to avoid facing the complicated truth that my father's health had been failing for years, and no one could have stopped it. "I've hated you for 7 years," I said quietly. "I know. You've hated me too." "Actually, no." He met my eyes. "I've never hated you, Sasha. I've been frustrated by you, challenged by you, occasionally infuriated by you. But hate, never. You've spent 7 years trying to destroy my company." "I've spent 7 years competing with your company. There's a difference." He closed his laptop. "Hate would mean I wanted you to fail, to suffer, to lose everything. But that's never been true. Every time we went head-to-head on a deal, I hoped I'd win, but I also respected the hell out of you for making me work for it." Something in my chest tightened. "I don't understand you." "Join the club. I don't understand me half the time either." He stood, moving to the window, looking out at the city lights. "Can I tell you something? The truth, not the business rhetoric." "Sure." "That day in your father's office, when we won the Riverside deal, I was so focused on the victory that I didn't see your face. Didn't see how devastated you were. It wasn't until later, when I heard about your father's heart attack, that I replayed that meeting in my mind. And I realized you weren't just angry about losing the deal. You were afraid." "Afraid of what?" "Of failing him, of not being enough, of proving everyone right who said you were too young, too inexperienced, too much of a risk." He turned to face me. "I see it because I've felt it. The weight of family legacy, the pressure to prove yourself, the fear that one mistake will undo everything your family built. You carry that, Sasha. You've been carrying it for 7 years." Tears stung my eyes, and I hated him for seeing me so clearly. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because tomorrow we're going to be hunting whoever wants us dead. And if I'm going to protect you, if we're going to work together, I need you to understand something." He crossed back to where I sat. "I'm not your enemy. I've never been your enemy. I've been your competitor, your rival, maybe even your motivation. But enemy? No. And it's time we both stopped pretending otherwise." I looked up at him, this man I'd spent 7 years hatting, and saw someone completely different from the monster I'd imagined. Saw exhaustion and determination, and something that looked almost like concern. "I don't know how to do this," I admitted. "How to not hate you." "Start by trusting me to keep you alive. We'll figure out the rest as we go." He offered his hand. A truce, a new beginning. I took it. Part 3. Morning brought clarity and coffee. Dominic's investigation had yielded results overnight. He'd traced the killers back to a private military contractor that hired out to anyone with enough money and questionable morals. The good news is, they're expensive. Whoever hired them has serious resources. "How is that good news?" I asked, stealing a piece of his toast. Because it narrows the suspect pool. We're not looking for angry protesters or small-time competitors. We're looking for someone with money, connections, and a significant stake in stopping the harbor project. That still describes half the development companies in the city. True, but it also describes someone much closer to home. He pulled up a financial report on his laptop. I ran deep background on everyone involved in the harbor project. Investors, contractors, city officials. Found something interesting about one of your board members. My stomach dropped. Who? Victor Chen. He's been on the Hale Properties board for 5 years? 6, he was my father's friend. Came on after Dad retired to help guide me. Even as I said it, something felt wrong. What did you find? Victor Chen has been quietly acquiring property in the old warehouse district for the past 3 years. Small purchases, done through shell companies, nothing that would trigger attention. But if you add it all up, he showed me the report. He owns about 40% of the district now. Which means if the harbor project goes through, property values in the warehouse district will skyrocket. He'll make millions. Dominic's expression was grim. But only if the development actually happens. If it fails, if the project gets canceled, the district stays undervalued and his investment is worthless. But why would he want to stop it then? If he profits from... Understanding hit me like a punch. Unless he's not the one trying to stop it. Unless someone else is trying to stop it and he's using the threat to manipulate the situation. Think about it, Sasha. You die, the project stalls, maybe even gets canceled. Victor mourns publicly, offers to take over Hale Properties to honor your legacy. And when the dust settles, he revives the project on his terms. Terms that benefit his warehouse properties even more. You think Victor sent those killers? I think Victor is connected to whoever sent them. Those assassins cost at least 6 figures. Victor has the money and the motivation. I felt sick. Victor had been a fixture in my life for years. Attended my father's retirement party. Sent flowers when I closed my first major deal. Offered advice, guidance, support. And apparently, he'd been planning to kill me. We need proof, I said. We can't accuse a board member of attempted murder without evidence. Already working on it. I have people digging into his finances, looking for payments to the military contractor. Dominic glanced at his watch. But in the meantime, we need to keep you hidden. If Victor realizes you're alive and in protective custody, he'll accelerate his plans, send more killers. Exactly. I paced the apartment, mind racing. How did I miss this? I've worked with Victor for years. How did I not see? Because he's good at hiding it, and because you trusted him. Dominic stood, blocking my packing. This isn't your fault, Sasha. I should have been more careful, should have questioned his motives. You're human, you trusted someone your father trusted. That's not a weakness. His hands came up, gripping my shoulders gently. We'll handle this, together, but I need you focused, not spiraling into self-blame. The touch was meant to be reassuring, but the moment his hands made contact, something electric passed between us. I looked up, found him closer than I'd realized, his green eyes intense and focused entirely on me. Dominic, I whispered, not sure what I was asking for. I know, his voice was rough. I feel it too. This is a bad idea. Terrible idea, but he didn't move away, neither did I. The air between us felt charged, heavy with 7 years of rivalry and anger, and something else we'd both been ignoring. His hands slid from my shoulders to my face, thumbs brushing my cheeks with surprising gentleness. We shouldn't, I said, even as I leaned into his touch. We really shouldn't. He rested his forehead against mine. You're my rival, my competition, 7 years of fighting and somewhere along the way, it became something else. Yeah, he pulled back just enough to meet my eyes. Sasha, I need you to know something. When I said I saved you for the business deal, I lied. My breath caught. What? I've been watching you for months, not just business intelligence, though I told myself that's all it was. But I'd find myself looking for you at industry events, reading articles about your projects, wondering what you were thinking, what you were planning. He laughed, the sound almost bitter. Maya's right. This rivalry has consumed me, but not the way she thinks. Then how? I think I've been a little bit in love with you for a while now, and I've been using the rivalry to justify staying close to you, staying in your orbit, because admitting the truth felt impossible. Everything I thought I knew about Dominic Russo shifted. 7 years of hatred cracked, revealing something tender and fragile underneath. I should hate you, I said. You should. For the Riverside deal, for the competition, for everything. You should hate me for all of it. But I don't. The admission felt like free falling. I haven't for a while. I think I've been using the rivalry too, using anger to avoid admitting that maybe what I felt wasn't just competition. He kissed me, soft at first, questioning, giving me every chance to pull away. I didn't. Instead, I kissed him back, 7 years of tension releasing in a wave that left me dizzy. His hands tangled in my hair, mine gripped his shirt, and we kissed like we'd been waiting for this moment our entire lives. Maybe we had. Maybe every argument, every deal, every competitive victory or loss had been building to this, to understanding that what we'd called hatred was actually something far more complicated. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dominic rested his forehead against mine again. This complicates things, he said. Massively. If we survive the next few days. When we survive, he corrected with a small smile. We need to figure out what this means, for us, for our companies, for everything. One crisis at a time. I stepped back, immediately missing his warmth. First, we prove Victor is behind the attacks. Then we stay alive. Then we figure out if the rival who just kissed me is someone I could actually love, he supplied. I was going to say tolerate, but sure, let's go with love and see what happens. His laugh was genuine and warm, and I realized I'd never heard Dominic Russo really laugh before. It was a good sound. I wanted to hear it again. But first, we had a traitor to catch. Part 4. Dominic's people came through with evidence by evening. Bank records showing Victor had made 3 large payments to a consulting firm that was a front for the military contractor. Email exchanges discussing, handling the Hale problem. Even a recorded phone call where Victor explicitly told someone to make sure she doesn't survive to see the groundbreaking. We had him. We take this to the police, I said, staring at the evidence. Let them arrest him, shut this down. And if he has backup plans, if arresting him triggers something worse, Dominic shook his head. We need to neutralize the entire threat, not just Victor. What are you suggesting? We draw him out, make him think his plan worked. You want to fake my death? Not quite. I want to make him think you're vulnerable, that you've figured out someone on your board is dirty but don't know who, that you're going to call an emergency board meeting to flush them out. That's insane. It's also the only way to get him to move against you personally. Right now, he's using intermediaries, keeping himself clean. But if he thinks his entire plan is about to collapse, if he thinks you're about to expose him, he'll have to act directly. And when he does, we'll be ready. With police, with evidence, with everything we need to ensure he goes away for attempted murder, not just financial crimes. It was risky, possibly suicidal, but it was also the best chance we had at ending this permanently. Okay, I agreed. Let's do it. We spent the next day setting the trap. I sent carefully worded emails to board members, suggesting I'd uncovered evidence of corruption and wanted to discuss it in person. To Victor specifically, I implied I knew about his warehouse district investments and had questions about his motivations regarding the harbor project. The bait was set. Now we waited. Victor took it faster than expected. Within 3 hours, I received a text from a number I didn't recognize. We need to talk about the board meeting. Come to the warehouse district tonight, 10 p.m. alone. I can explain everything. He's not even being subtle about it, Dominic said, reading over my shoulder. He thinks I'm desperate enough to walk into an obvious trap. To be fair, without me, you probably would have gone to the police by now and gotten tangled in red tape while he covered his tracks. He was already texting his security team, coordinating. We go early, get people in position. When Victor shows up, we have witnesses, recordings, everything we need. You mean when Victor's killers show up? Those two, but Sasha. He turned me to face him. You're not actually going to be there. My security team has someone who can pass for you at a distance. You'll be in a surveillance van safe while we... No. Sasha. This is my company, my board member, my attempted murder. I'm not hiding in a van while someone else puts themselves at risk. I held his gaze. I'm going. You can either help me do it safely or I'm going alone. You're the most stubborn woman I've ever met. You say that like it's a bad thing. He pulled me close, kissing my forehead. It's one of the many things I've fallen for, but it's also going to give me a heart attack before this is over. Welcome to my world for the past 7 years. At 9 p.m., we moved into position. The warehouse district was exactly as menacing as it sounded. Abandoned buildings, broken streetlights, the kind of place where bad things happened and no one asked questions. Dominic's security team was hidden throughout the area. Police were on standby 2 blocks away, ready to move on our signal. I wore a wire, had 2 bodyguards in visual range, and Dominic himself was positioned where he could intervene if things went south. Still, as I walked into the abandoned warehouse at exactly 10 p.m., my heart hammered with fear that had nothing to do with adrenaline and everything to do with facing someone I'd trusted who'd tried to kill me. Victor was already there, standing in the center of the empty warehouse, expensive coat over an expensive suit, looking every bit the respectable businessman. Until I saw the gun in his hand. "Hello, Sasha," he said calmly. "I was hoping you'd be smart enough to involve the police. This would have been much cleaner if they'd arrested me, but you always did have to do things the hard way." "Why, Victor? I trusted you. My father trusted you." "Your father was a fool who left money on the table his entire career. Too ethical, too soft, too focused on legacy instead of profit." He circled me slowly, gun trained at my chest. "When he retired and left everything to his idealistic daughter, I saw an opportunity. Guide you, shape you, position myself to benefit from your naivety." The harbor project. Among other things, I've been moving pieces for 6 years, Sasha. Building toward the perfect moment where I could take control of Hale Properties, redirect its resources toward my investments, and finally maximize the potential your father wasted. By killing me. By removing an obstacle, you were supposed to die in that stairwell. Quick, clean, blamed on a robbery gone wrong. But then your rival, he said the word with disgust, had to play hero. Dominic Russo. Tell me, is he here now, hiding in the shadows like the coward he is? I'm right here, Victor. Dominic stepped from behind a support beam, weapon drawn. Not hiding, just waiting for you to incriminate yourself. Around us, Dominic's security team emerged from concealment. Police sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Victor's face twisted with rage. You think you've won? You think this is over? I think you're going to prison for attempted murder, Dominic said calmly. I think your assets will be frozen, your warehouse investments will be seized, and you'll spend the next 20 years regretting every choice that led you here. You arrogant, Victor raised his gun, pointing it at me. If I'm going down, I'm taking her with. 3 things happened simultaneously. Dominic fired, hitting Victor's shoulder and spinning him. Police burst through the warehouse doors, weapons drawn. And I discovered that being protected by my former enemy meant never having to face danger alone. Victor went down, screaming, gun clattering away. Police swarmed him, applying handcuffs even as paramedics were called. The whole thing was over in less than 30 seconds. Dominic reached me in 3 strides, hands running over me, checking for injuries even though Victor hadn't gotten a shot off. Are you hurt? Did he touch you? Sasha, talk to me. I'm fine. I grabbed his face, making him focus on me instead of his panic. I'm fine. We're fine. It's over. He pulled me against him, holding tight enough that breathing became optional. When he pointed that gun at you, I know. I felt the same way every time you put yourself at risk for me. Then we're both idiots. Clearly. We stayed like that while police processed the scene, took statements, arrested Victor Chen for conspiracy to commit murder. The evidence we'd gathered, combined with his confession, helpfully recorded on my wire, meant he'd be going away for a very long time. The harbor project was safe, Hale Properties was secure, and I was alive, protected by the man I'd thought was my enemy. Part 5. 3 weeks later, I stood at the groundbreaking ceremony for the harbor project. Press cameras flashed, investors smiled, and the mayor made a speech about urban renewal and economic growth. But all I could focus on was Dominic Russo, standing slightly to the side, watching me with an expression that made my heart race. After the ceremony, after the speeches and the champagne and the congratulations, I found him waiting by his car. "That was quite a speech," he said. "Very inspiring. Almost made me forget that 3 weeks ago we hated each other." "We never hated each other." I stepped closer. "We just didn't know what else to call it. And now? Now I think we should probably figure that out, what we call this, what we are." Dominic smiled, the kind of smile that made him look younger, less guarded. "Competitors. Always. Rivals. Professionally, yes. Allies. When it matters. And personally," he pulled me close, arms around my waist. "What are we personally?" I pretended to consider it, even though I'd known the answer for weeks. "I think we're two stubborn people who spent 7 years fighting because we were too afraid to admit we were better together than apart." That's a wordy definition. "Fine, how about this?" I kissed him, soft and sweet and perfect. "We're together, we're real, and we're going to drive each other crazy in the best possible way." "Much better." He kissed me again, deeper this time. "Though just to be clear, I'm still going to beat you on the Riverside East development." "Like hell you are. I've already got 3 investors lined up." "I've got 5. "Liar." "Prove it." We argued all the way to his car, and it felt perfect. Natural, right. Because Dominic Russo wasn't my enemy. He never had been. He was my match, my equal, my partner in business and life and everything that mattered. And as we drove through the city we both loved, planning our next moves in a competition that had transformed into collaboration, I realized something important. Sometimes the person you think is your enemy is actually the person you've been looking for all along. Sometimes protection comes from the last place you'd expect. And sometimes, the best love stories start with 7 years of hate and end with understanding that it was never hate at all. It was always love. We just needed danger, death threats, and a corrupt board member to figure it out. "Dominic," I said as he pulled up to my apartment, the one I'd returned to after police arrested not just Victor, but his entire network of hired killers. "Yeah. Thank you for protecting me, for seeing past the rivalry, for being patient with my stubborn hatred. Thank you for making me work for every victory," he countered, "for challenging me, for reminding me that the best things in life are worth fighting for." "Are we still talking about business?" "We're talking about everything." He came around to open my door, ever the gentleman despite being a cutthroat businessman. "We're talking about you, us, this thing that started with competition and became something I can't imagine living without." That's very romantic for someone who shot a man 3 weeks ago. "I'm multi-talented." I laughed, and he kissed me on my doorstep like we were teenagers instead of rival CEOs who'd nearly died together. When we finally broke apart, I found myself saying something I never expected. "Do you want to come up? We could order dinner, review the contracts for the harbor project, maybe argue about commercial zoning for a while." That's the most romantic invitation I've ever received. "I'm being serious." "So am I," he brushed hair from my face. "But Sasha, if I come up, if we do this, I need you to know that I'm all in. This isn't casual for me. This isn't just stress bonding or adrenaline or proximity during crisis." "What is it then?" "It's 7 years of wondering what if. It's 3 weeks of protecting the woman I've fallen for. It's me telling you that I want to try this. Really try. The business rivalry, the competition that can stay, it keeps us sharp. But everything else, he pulled me close. Everything else, I want to be a team. Even though we compete professionally. Especially because we compete professionally. We make each other better, Sasha. We always have. I don't want to lose that. But I also don't want to lose this, whatever this is that we've found in the middle of chaos. I looked at him, this man who'd been my enemy and my savior and everything in between, and made my choice. Come upstairs, I said. Let's figure out how to be rivals and partners simultaneously. It'll probably be a disaster. Definitely a disaster, he agreed. We'll argue constantly. About everything. Our companies will think we're insane. The whole industry will think we're insane. So we're doing this. We're doing this. We went upstairs, ordered Thai food because apparently that was our thing now, and spent the evening arguing about commercial zoning while sitting close enough that our knees touched. We reviewed contracts while stealing kisses. We planned competitive strategies while building something together that had nothing to do with business and everything to do with trust. Somewhere around midnight, as we sat on my couch surrounded by paperwork and empty food containers, Dominic pulled me against him. I was protected by my enemy, I said sleepily, and I fell for him. I protected my rival, he replied, and discovered she was what I'd been looking for all along. That's cheesy. You love it. Unfortunately, yes. He kissed the top of my head, and I felt safe in a way I hadn't in 7 years. Safe enough to compete, to challenge, to fight for what I wanted. But also safe enough to trust, to open up, to admit that maybe the person I'd called my enemy had actually been my person all along. 7 years of rivalry. 3 weeks of danger. 1 moment of clarity that changed everything. Protected by my enemy, I'd found my future. And it was better than anything I could have imagined. Thank you for joining me for Protected by My Enemy. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more thrilling romance stories. Your comments mean the world to me. Let me know what you thought and what kind of stories you'd like to see next. Until next time, keep reading and stay mysterious.